Hi, and welcome to this live this evening with myself, Sam, from Inclusive Fit, and Sarah. Sarah, I can't even say your surname, so I'm not going to attempt to. Sarah runs her own training consultancy and runs different qualifications, which I actually tutor for her on. And tonight we're going to talk about why you need to get qualified to work with disabled adults. So we're talking about the level 3 designing exercise programs for disabled adults. So I'm now going to hand over to Sarah, who will elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, this is something, as you know, Sam, I'm really, really passionate about, because I was involved with a version of this qualification over 20 years ago, must be 20 years ago now, when the Inclusive Fitness Initiative started putting this qualification out into a lot of centres and making a lot of centres more inclusive and accessible for people. And it's a really important qualification. There are estimated to be anywhere between sort of 16 plus million people in the UK who live with a disability. And, you know, when we think about disabilities, we tend to think of the more obvious ones. But actually, a lot of people have what we call a hidden disability, which could be a musculoskeletal issue. It could be a psychiatric issue. It could be down to sort of diabetes and things. So there's probably a lot more people out there who have a condition that disables them. So this is a really important qualification, isn't it?
It is very important. And obviously, with me being disabled myself, and the reason why I'm passionate about it is because, in my experience of being a customer before I trained and qualified, is that no PT, no fitness instructor knew how to work with me. They didn't know how to adapt for me. Literally, they just put me on the cross trainer or the treadmill in the gym, and that'll be it. They wouldn't even try and attempt to put me on any other bit of equipment. So every gym I went to, and I went to quite a few, and quite a few big name gyms in my town, and they all just did the same thing. And after a while, it just gets repetitive, and you're like, don't they understand? I'm just like everyone else. Yeah, yes, but there is certain things they need to know about working with disabled people, and you know, there's counter contradictions to different conditions. So
Yeah.
what? And I know we talked about this a lot. Is I see these disabled people that are qualified as PTs. Either they don't know about the qualification, or they think because they've got a disability, they don't need to get qualified in that. And as we know, that's not the case.
It's not the case at all. And can I just say, the fact that you actually got into the gyms and onto the treadmills is a big plus, because I speak to so many disabled people who say they're not even allowed through the door because we haven't got anyone qualified to work with you. So, even just being able to get on the treadmill and the cross trainers a bonus. But you're so right. It's just because you have a disability, or just because you've worked in education with children with disabilities, doesn't mean you understand the exercise implications. It's a bit like saying, well, I've got diabetes, so I don't need exercise referral because I understand medical conditions. There's so much more to it. And even somebody with a disability might not understand some of the underlying physiology that's going on. And this is where the qualification is so important, because at the end of the day, as fitness professionals, we want exercise to be safe and effective, first of all, but we then want it to be enjoyable.
Exactly, and also I know this from working in my I worked in the disability field for over 10 years now, and seeing people that should be qualified and they don't even understand the counter contradictions to say Down syndrome, and I'm seeing them do what they're not meant to do, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm tearing my hair out, going, no, you're not meant to be doing that. And to me, I see people that even work with people with CP, and they go, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, don't work with that client in the first place. And if you don't understand the disability or the health condition, why take them on? Because you're not going to have any results. You're not going to produce any results. You have any success unless you understand that disability. And if you're not qualified, hand them on to someone that is qualified. It's the referring on process, which we cover in exercise referral, the disability qualification level 4. You always refer on if it's outside your scope of practice. Yet, a lot of fitness professionals don't understand the scope of practice.
That's it. And it's the thing is, I'm all for giving it a go with clients, but you have to give it a go from an informed base of knowledge. And you also need to know where the client is. What can the client do? What does the client want to be able to do that they can't do now? But also, what is absolutely never going to be able to do that? Because there are certain things that aren't possible. But as I say, we want to give it a go, but we want to give it a go with that underpinning knowledge that means we're still safe, we're still effective. And that's what the qualification gives you. And I think, this is, like you mentioned about, referring on when you're outside your scope of practice. Again, a good qualification, your scope of practice. When actually it's time to say, do you know what? I either need to speak to somebody and get more advice on this, or I need to pass you on to someone who's more highly qualified. And that's an important part of being a professional. It's like your doctor wouldn't say, oh, there's something going on with your brain, I'll have a look. He'd say, right, I'm going to refer you to a consultant. And it's a similar thing, we might not be brain surgeons, but we're still dealing with people, and we're still, potentially we could injure somebody.
Exactly. And it's easier to injure a disabled person than it is a non-disabled person, or other conditions. And also it's if you can keep a disabled client, you've got that disabled client for life. If you're PT, that you've got that PT client for life. It's not just 8, 9, 10 weeks. You got them because they need to continue that exercise and maintain that to keep their condition, especially as they get older. Their need is more vital. So if you want a good solid client for the whole time you're going to be a PT, this is the qualification you need to get. If they are, disabled people are very loyal. Once you find a PT that they are happy with, or even a group fitness instructor that they're happy with, they stick to them and keep going and going and going. And I do want to say something. I know that this qualification is completely different. It's active IQ from the old YMCA disability sort of qualification that some people might say it's not 100% correct. Sarah's qualification is completely different, and we look at we don't look at it from a gym perspective, we look at it from a client perspective, and we actually go through the whole course looking at the disabled client.
Other qualifications are great. I mean, there are some really good qualifications out there, but I think what makes us stand out is Sam, because Sam is a tutor on the course, and really understands the disability perspective, not just from her own experience and disability, but also from working with people for over 10 years. But it's also, and you've got my experience. I've got over 30 years in the industry. I've worked with a range of disabilities and been involved with this particular course for over 20 years. And I see, we deliver live as well. Yes, it's over Zoom, but we deliver live. And I think that's an important factor, because you get the opportunity to ask questions, to have things clarified, to have things explained in more detail. And I think that's an important part of this particular qualification, is being able to ask questions at the time.
And you get the instant responses. And obviously between me and Sarah, we got over 40 years between us of working with disabled people. So if we don't know, then we obviously will find someone that does, but we often do. Actually, we've not been in that situation yet, thankfully.
But it'll happen. It will happen, because it always does. But because somebody can, sometimes when you're watching something that's not live, you kind of got questions, but by the time you finish watching it, you've forgotten what your questions were. Whereas when you're online, it's, can I just ask about this? Can I ask about that? And we can respond to people's questions. We can go into a bit more depth about things as well, and talk about some of the like the non-fitness barriers, if you like. We talk about things like access even just to websites, to getting into the facility, not just being in the gym or the class or working as a PT, but some of the barriers that people encounter before they even get to that point. And that is something we talk about. And we've got in our our network, we've got people who specialize in this sort of thing. So, you know, we're coming at it from a much broader perspective than just client comes into the gym, what am I going to do? We get you thinking about everything. We get you thinking about the facility you work in, whether it's a gym, a fitness center, a leisure center, a local village hall, or even your own studio, or even the park. We get you thinking about everything from the point of view of access, and inclusion, and just making people feel welcome. So, you know, it's not just about the exercise, is it?
No,
we look at
and
the whole experience.
the whole package. But I have to say is that I know that coming over this year, and I think it's next year, where with the European Union, there's a new accessibility law thing coming in, and I don't know when it's going to come into the UK, but if it does, but it means that every website has to be accessible and has accessible features. So literally, it's got to be suitable for every type of disabled person. So this is why this law is coming in. I can't remember what it's called. It's some sort of Accessibility Act or something.
Yeah.
Where websites have to be like accessible for everyone, regardless of what they got wrong with them. So again, when we go through everything, we talk about how to make everything accessible. Your marketing, we tell you what language to use and what language not to use. We tell you how to do your advertising and how to advertise your fitness classes, your gym sessions, your PT sessions. So we go. It is that the whole package that we go through. It's not just a one shop gym shop sort of thing. We go through every aspect of the fitness industry and how you can work with clients.
That's it, and it is. You know, I think it's like 3/4 of disabled people have experienced issues on websites, or there's nothing on there about accessibility, or instructors who are qualified, so they just don't bother going any further. You know, it's not always about, like I say, it's not always about the access on a website, but it's about the fact that the information isn't there, and if you can't find the information, you'll just go to the next website and see if they've got the information, and you'll stop at the one that says we are inclusive, we're accessible, we're qualified, which means we're insured as well, which I think is something we need to mention is, you know, your insurance is based on your qualifications, not your experience in a previous job or what you know in your head. It's based on the fact that you hold a qualification, which means you have gone through a training process, you've been assessed, and you've been deemed competent. And, you know, this is the thing, you know, if you don't hold a qualification, potentially, if anything happened,
and there could be issues. It's also making sure, like, and I say a bang on about this, that your qualification is a qualification. Because there's some really good CPDs out there, but they might not actually insure you to work with disabled people. They might be really good courses, don't get us wrong, but they might be expensive courses, but they might not insure you or qualify you to work with disabled people. And again, I know we both had someone on our last course who had to resit their PT qualification because it wasn't a valid qualification. So, and I say I'll go into this more, but it's about researching your actual provider, what course it is, checking the qualification number against Ofqual. And I feel like I'll go into that. I can't remember.
I'm not going to spend too long on it, but if it is a qualification, it will be on the relevant framework. Ofqual is the England one, SQA is the Scottish one. If anyone wants any more details, contact me and I'll let you know. But every qualification has a qualification accreditation number. When you look that up on Ofqual, it will tell you who is the awarding organisation responsible for that particular qualification. You can then go to the awarding organisation and say, who are the centres that deliver this for you? And any good training organisation will give you that information, will talk you through that information, will help you find the information you need. Because if they won't, I'd be a bit, why won't they tell me what the qualification number is? Why won't they tell me who the awarding organisation number is? I want to know those things because I know then that it's a proper qualification. And as Sam said, there's some really, really good CPD out there, but continuing professional development is based on holding a qualification at a certain level. So it's building on the knowledge gained in the qualification. It's not necessarily a qualification in its own right. Doesn't mean it's not good, doesn't mean it's not brilliantly delivered, but it means that at the end of the day, it may not actually be a qualification. And again, if people say, oh, but it's accredited, ask who it's accredited by, who's the accrediting body. If it's just, oh, we accredit it ourselves, then who's the external person saying this is fit for purpose, this does what it's supposed to do? So this is something I'm really, really hot on. You know, as Sam says, I bang on about it all the time, but I do, because I've spoken to so many people who've spent a lot of money on training that they found out later isn't recognised. Doesn't mean it's not good training, doesn't mean they haven't learned a lot, but if it's not recognised when they go on to other qualifications, they're stuck, because, you know, it's like, I'm sorry, I can't accept this certificate. So they're kind of stuck. And like I say, it's not that it's not necessarily good or whatever, that they don't know what they're doing. It just means we don't have that qualification. And also, it's like, isn't it? You know, it's like if your employer says you've got to have a GCSE in maths, and you go along and say, well, I've done lots of times tables. It's not, or I've done, I filled in this book, or I've done this. It's like, but you need the GCSE. So, well, I haven't done that, but I've done this, and it's very similar. It's like, no, you have to have that. So, this is where, for me, I'm always saying to people, ask the questions, ask. And if you follow me on any social media, I post at least once a month. Check out the training before you check out.
Also, on the insurance, I can't talk on the insurance side. I remember I was on a webinar in lockdown from it was Simpson did it, and literally they had some insurance companies on there, and they were saying, and the first thing they asked for, say a client comes to see you, and that the first thing they ask for is your qualification certificate. If you haven't got that qualification certificate, as in it's got a L2, L3, or L4, as in the other qualification name, then you might not be covered. You probably won't be covered, and they won't actually cover you for that claim. So that means you will have to then pay out your own pocket to cover that actual that case, basically, because they won't cover you. And again, they might say you're insured, but get it in writing, because they could say that, and that you get off the phone and you go to claim, and you're not actually covered, because you can't always take what they tell you on the phone to be 100% correct. Always get it in writing, and you've got it as your backup.
Yeah.
If anything did happen.
This is it, and as I say, this is a population group that, there is potential for injury if you do the wrong things. Most of the time, if you work with the client and you've got that underpinning knowledge, the risk of injury is low, but it may well happen if you don't know what you're doing, because you're unaware of certain things that are going on within the physiology of somebody. So that's where having that underpinning knowledge, knowing warning signs, recognizing what's not going to happen. And it's like you're saying about Down syndrome. If there's an atlantoaxial instability, then most people would like, oh, well, it's things like forward rolls and gymnastics. No, it's not. It's a lot of the movements we do within fitness as standard could be potentially very dangerous. So this is where having that knowledge, it also means you can explain to somebody why you're not doing that exercise with them. You can say, right, we're not doing this because
and
it's
actually,
dangerous.
I have to say, when I used to run a disability inclusive gym session and for my old job, and literally, basically, I had a mum come in with like a 16-year-old son. I got the induction. But before I did that, the first question I asked was about his AAI. And literally, she was really impressed, because she said that's the first time anyone's asked me about that. And it just goes to show how much knowledge you got before you even started. And it just put my mind and my heart at rest, knowing he's in good safe hands with you. And that is what it is. It's it's not just working with, you're not just working with that client. You could be working with the whole family.
That's it. And it's like there's a lot of questions that you need to ask, not because you're being personal, but because you need to know from the point of view of putting together a program for somebody. And if you've got the underpinning knowledge about why you're asking the questions, you ask the questions. But if you haven't got that knowledge and you don't ask the questions, then the person might be thinking, why haven't they asked me about that? Or at worst, as I say, something could happen because you haven't got the basic knowledge from your client in the first place. So from a
So from a, say, a fitness professional watching this now, what is covered? I'm going to ask a question now from their perspective. What is covered roughly? What is covered on the qualification?
We look at a range of conditions. We look at cerebral palsy, spinal cord injury, limbless amputation, visual impairment, hearing impairment, Down syndrome, and learning disability are the conditions that we specifically cover on the course. And we look at the physiology, we look at what's different, we look at the implications for exercise, we look at potential issues with exercise, and then we look at sort of programming, putting something together that's appropriate. But we also touch on, behavior change, lifestyle management, and things like that, because they're really, really important. We also include a short module on neurodivergence, purely because although it's not necessarily a disability, quite a lot of people, come through and want to talk about it. And certainly, I've worked with a lot of people who sort of say, well, I've got this, I've got that. And it's just having a better understanding. So, we look at things like dyslexia, dyspraxia, because they can have implications for exercise. But we also do look at ADHD and autism and other conditions, purely because it's kind of like a bonus module, if you like, but purely because there are implications for exercise. And, although it's not a disability, again, it's something that as instructors, we need to understand that it isn't always as straightforward as, here's your program. As you get better, just do more of this program. It's so important, isn't it? And
also a lot of people with the conditions that we cover on the course can actually have ADHD. They can have autism on top. So with cerebral palsy, autism is very common. Again, with learning disabilities, autism is very common. So obviously there are comorbidities to the actual disabilities that we cover on the course. So actually it's really important to cover like neurodivergent, so that you've got some basic understanding. So if you've got a client with a learning disability come to your class or your gym, you know exactly how to work with them, you know exactly all the contradictions to exercise, blah, 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 blah. And then you're fully confident that you're not only qualified and sure to work with them, you've got that confidence to work with them as well.
Yeah. And if they come in and say, I'm not doing that today, you go, fine, we'll do plan B or C. You've got alternatives. Yeah. But it's, you're not going to go, well, if you're not going to do your program, then why bother? It's like, fine, let's do something else. It's understanding that sometimes that is what your clients need. And anyone who's ever worked with me will know my two sayings. One is get to know your client. And it is so important that you get to know your client, that you ask all the questions. You ask sometimes personal questions, because you need to know, obviously there are some personal questions you don't ask, but there may be things like the way that people's bodies react to exercise. Do they get soreness the day after that? How long does it tend to last? So it's really looking at the client holistically and being honest and saying, do you know what? There are days where I don't want to do that. Or there are days where I know cardio is no good for me because I'm just not going to have the energy levels. I want to do something a lot more gentle, a lot more mindful. Whereas there are other days where, do you know what, I want to go for it today. And it's not about the person's mood or laziness or motivation. It's because they understand their body and what their body's going to react better to on that day. And I think that's a really important thing with disability, isn't it? Is recognizing that normal rhythms may well be more extreme.
And actually, on that note, I'm about to record a podcast with one of my ladies who has had a very bad experience with her last PT before me, and she had to have therapy because of the way the PT. And actually, I'm getting on my podcast because I think it's a story that needs to be told. Because actually, unless we learn from the mistakes of others, we're not going to be able to better ourselves. And it was all because she wasn't qualified on disability, didn't understand CP, and she didn't understand that CP can be fluctuating. And when she said she had a bad day, she still did the same program and expected her to work as hard as she did the week before. And you can't do that. And even now, she drive past the venue so she had PT, and she still gets flashbacks of how bad and she gets that anxiety, and that is not what we should be promoting. We should be promoting the complete opposite of that. And I get embarrassed when I hear these stories, because as a disabled fit pro, I'm like, oh my God, no, we shouldn't be like that. We need to be the opposite. We need to be like encouraging disabled people. 76% of disabled people want to be active but are not active.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
it.
lets us know why this disability qualification is so important at the end of the day.
And the other thing is that, you know, we're so used to in the fitness industry, we think of fitness, we think of exercise as a linear experience. And for a lot of disabled people, it's never going to be linear. It's about maintenance, or it's about fluctuations. It's about, you know, good days, bad days, awful days, brilliant days. But by getting to know the client, by understanding what's going on in their bodies as well, it means that you as an instructor can be much more reactive and say, right, okay, so you've had a week of really bad sleep. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's do this. And then they're then going to come to you and say, do you know what? I've had a week of bad sleep. I ain't doing that. I want to do this. But it means that you work together, because at the end of the day, whether you're a PT or a group exercise instructor or a disability instructor or whatever, it's not your workout. It's theirs. And if they say, this is what I want to do today, you go, brilliant, let's do that. This is, I think, something that people forget is, know, people know their bodies, and disabled people often know their bodies. They're often a lot more physically aware of their bodies than non-disabled people, because they know what happens if you overdo it, or
and they get pain. Like, I get pain every day, and the thing is, you won't know that I'm in pain, but I'm in pain now, but you won't know by looking at me. You know, it's because we are very good at hiding that pain, because we live with it every single day of our lives.
Yeah.
And we just have to push through it. We just have to carry on. But if I could guarantee that if I gave my pain to you now, Sarah, I'm just using you as an example, you won't be able to cope with the pain that I got, because you would be like, oh my God, how to cope with this every single day. Yet we are very, as Sarah said, finely tuned to our bodies, and especially the females who especially when we're like times a month, we will feel it even more. We get more fatigued, and everything is just really understanding that we will suffer more at certain times of the month, knowing when to take the program down, when to change that program altogether, and about working with your client. Like my client, she said to me in advance, oh, Sam, I'm on today. I can't do that program today. I need to do this one. Oh, Sam, I'm knackered. Can we just do a bit of stretching today? And I go, yeah, fine. And that is, they're telling me what to do, because we've got that relationship where we're so open, and we get to know each other very, very well. So then I can say, actually, we're not going to do that today. We're going to do this. Or they go, actually, can we do? Once you've done it a few times, they start to choose what they want to do. If they know their own body, oh, I don't want to do that today. Can I? Okay, yeah, fine. Yeah. Your choice.
This is the thing, isn't it? We need to get rid of that linear need, if you like, that need for linear progression. But also, you know, the results for a lot of people with a disability aren't being able to run further, faster, lift more weight and things like that. The result is that they can exercise,
but also get out of bed in the morning. They can keep getting dressed. They can put. This is an example I always use, because with CP we get worse as we get older, and I always say that I want to keep wiping my own arse. I don't want someone to wipe my own arse for me, and literally it's the only way I can get people to understand. Yeah, exercise is important, and it's not just the you've got to squat like this, you've got to do this because you're going to get stronger. Yeah, you're going to get stronger, but it's about the activities of daily living, and this is what it's really about with disabled people. Like for me, it's keeping me walking for as long as I can possibly walk for, before I have to accept that I might have to go into a wheelchair. But I'm not ready for that yet. I want to maintain my mobility for as long as possible, which means I've got to keep exercising to maintain my mobility. And you got to remember that technique with disabled people goes out the window. Your technique you got taught on the level 2, level 3 goes out the window. Literally out, because you do not do technique. they will tell you their own technique. Like I had someone try and tell me to squat with my knees open. Literally would never happen in a million years, because if my CP, my knees just come inwards and you will never get them outwards in a million years. You know, even if you put someone there, they still will come in. So again, this is what we go through on the course as well.
And that's the thing as well. Yeah, you know, yes, we're about safety, but you know, you have to work within that person's biomechanical function. And if the biomechanical function, like you say, is your knees come in, or that you have a scissor gait, pigeon toes out, whatever, you have to work with that. Now, you know, we're all for, you know, nice heel toe action on the treadmill parallel. Probably not going to happen for a lot of people, but as long as it's safe, and you know, the aim is, you know, if that's how you walk, I want to get you better at walking like that, not at walking. You know, you're never going to walk normally, to use that word, but I want to get you to be able to walk further and with more ease in the way that you walk. And this is the thing, you know, it's like stretching, you know, forget your static and maintenance and all of that. You're probably going to need 2 minutes per stretch, or build up to 2 minutes where you've got spastic muscles and things. So, you know, there's so much that we go through on the course, and it's, I mean, it's, I love teaching it because I love watching people's perceptions change, from thinking about what they can't do with people. Oh, I don't want to work with people because they won't be able to do much, to suddenly realizing, actually, I do want to work with them because there's so much we can do. And actually, we can have a lot more fun because we're adapting everything than just putting together a normal, standard, boring gym program.
I love it because for me, I change their perspectives about what a disabled person is like. People coming with a preconceived idea, they then see me tutoring the course, and they get to see a disabled person's point of view. They get to see all the comments for disabled people that want to exercise but can't because of the experiences they had negatively, and then suddenly they have this whole different viewpoint of disability. They get to see us as individuals, not that society view of disability that goes out the window, and they have a whole new, they see disability in a whole new light. And that is what the course is about, really.
This is it. And on the last course, we actually had someone else with CP on the course, cerebral palsy, for those that aren't sure. But we had someone else. And actually, you two are as alike as mustard and trees. You know, and this is, again, you start to realise that there's no cerebral palsy, visual impairment. There are so many variations that actually there's probably a lot more variation than in the non-disabled population, because it affects people so differently. And again, we talk about all of that. We talk about the differences. We tell you what all these different things mean. We tell you what might be going on underneath. And, you know, this is, again, something that people, we don't make it too complicated. You know, please don't think you're going to come on and do a master's in this, but we make it very, very accessible by just explaining how important it is to get to know your client, but also how important it is to work with them into what they want. As like Sam said, it might be wiping your bum for the rest of your life, or it might be being able to go for a walk with friends and not feel that everyone's having to slow down because of you. Everybody had people with a disability are no different to anyone else in that they've got things they want to be able to do. They've got things they want to be able to achieve. And do you know what? Sometimes they're unrealistic. So what? If we work towards it, we'll get further than if we don't bother at all.
If it's unrealistic, you just break it down to smaller goals that is realistic. And I've done that. And you just go, right, that's a very long-term goal. We might get there in like 2 years, 3 years' time. But for now, we're going to just break it down. We'll do this, then we'll do that. And you just aim towards it, so they know that they're working towards it. So if anyone's interested in the qualification, what do they need to do, Sarah?
Sam will put the details of where you can contact me. There is a page. It's quite a long email address, but a long website address. So I'll make sure Sam puts it in the comment. But we do have a course planned for 22nd, 24th, 26th of April, and there's another one 7th, 8th, 9th of June. That one's running over a weekend, 7th, 8th, 9th of June, which might be convenient for a lot of people who work during the week. We do run kind of 9 till 3. So, we don't keep you until 5, 6 o'clock because most people have had enough by then. But, it's an active IQ qualification. I can give you the qualification accreditation number, but we'll put it in there. But I'll make sure that Sam's got got the address of where you can find out more about it. But I think we've kind of covered everything that we talk about on it. I don't know if I can put this in. Oh, hang on. I don't know if I can put this in the comments, Sam, and it will come up.
I don't know if it will or not. Probably not. But if you could let me have it, and then I can put it in the details, when this goes. Yeah.
I'll put it in the private chat then. There we go. But yeah, it's £297. And it's money well spent, because
I think it is.
Of the number of disabled people out there, they are twice as likely to be inactive as the rest of the population, and a lot of that is not because they don't want to be active. It's because they cannot find somebody who's on the same page as them when it comes to exercise, who understands how important it is to be realistic, but to be understood, and just right, yeah. And it's like anything, isn't it? If somebody says, I don't want to do that, or I can't do that, and you say, all right, okay, let's find something you can do, or you do want to do. We want people to leave our course really confident in supporting people who have a disability in becoming more active. Now, that might be exercise, or it might just be being able to go for a walk or stretch at home. It's what people want to do, isn't it?
And also, we don't just leave you at the end of the course. You've got me and Sarah on hand for advice post course anytime.
Yeah, we don't let people go.
No, we just don't let you. We keep you forever, basically. So,
yeah, but we are. We're always on hand for support and advice. We're always on hand to, if you've got a question or you've got a worry or you've got a query, we're always on hand to answer that, because that's something else that I think makes us stand out. Is we're here for you afterwards. We're not going to write your clients' programs or anything, but we can certainly listen to your concerns and sort of say, oh, actually, I think you need to hand this on to someone else, or do you know what? Do this, don't do that. Ask them this. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is we don't just abandon you at the end of the course. We're here for you, for support, for ongoing. Advice.
Questions, but especially when I've done courses where I've been dumped at the end of the course, and then you get questions and you're like, I've got no one to ask, and then you get the imposter syndrome. But I did a few courses where I have had that support, and it does make all the difference to how you work yourself as a fitness professional, and you feel so much more confident in yourself because you can actually go out and work with that population because you're more confident to do so.
And this and knowing you've got the backup if you need it. I mean, for me, I usually have 3 times as many questions after the course than I ever have on the course. And that's one of the reasons I think, we're here for you for support afterwards, because we know that there'll be things that you can't quite remember, or that you didn't think to ask, or that something will come up. We can't cover absolutely everything on the course because, it would be a year long, and you'd be sick of the sight of both of us by the end of that. But this is why, there will be things that come up that, do you know what? You probably know the answer, but you just want to make sure you're on the right lines. And that's why we don't let you go off into the wide world. No, it stabilizes until you don't need us anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the good thing about it. So if you have any questions, obviously put them in the comments. We'll put you have my email and Sarah's email either above or below, regarding what platform we're on. And and obviously any questions you can just contact us, put a comment in, and one of us will get back to you. Okay. If I don't know, I'll tag Sarah and then she will comment. So but yeah. So I hope this has been useful for you, and hopefully any questions let us know, and hopefully we'll see you on a qualification soon.
Brilliant. Yeah, hopefully see you soon.